Welcome to Podcast 83, a regular look at the news, stories, and trends related to Michigan's 83 counties from the Michigan Association of Counties.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Podcast 83, the podcast put on by the Michigan Association of Counties. Today, we're going to change gears a little bit with the upcoming annual conference next week up in Grand Traverse County. We want to talk a little bit today about our platforms, and specifically, Deena is going to talk a little bit about what we use our platforms for, and then we're going to go through each of the platform sections, topics, and then talk a little bit about what some of the changes to the platforms that will be voted on at the upcoming conference here in a week. So Deena, first up, why don't you give a brief overview of what you folks use the platforms for?
Thanks, Steve, for sure. So at MAC, we have internal committees, and our internal committees focus on different policy areas. So we take a deep dive in during each one of those committees into different topics where we have speakers come in. But every year, we also go over our platforms. And for our membership, our platforms comprises a document that gives us guiding principles so that we know how to best advocate for counties, what positions we can take on certain types of legislation that's brought up before us. We don't bring every single bill that the legislature introduces in front of each one of our committees. That would be a heck of a lot of work for our membership, and really not the best use of our time. So we have, let's take the Finance and General Government Committee. Those are two different platforms. Our finance platform goes over things like revenue and taxes and how our members feel about certain types of taxes, revenue, maybe some labor issues, economic development, items like that. So we go through, and every year we go line by line, review what's in those platforms, talk about it in committee, add language, change some language, take some language out that we've already dealt with some of the issues before. And then that gives us the chance to know what our membership likes. After the committees do their work, those platforms go to our board of directors. And so the MAC board of directors reviews those committee platforms, the policy positions that they've taken. So MAC opposes this, MAC supports that. They have their discussion and then they vote on them. If they're approved, then those platforms go to our general membership, which is what Steve just talked about. Our general membership is going to meet at our annual conference. They will review those platforms as well. And then at our business meeting, they will adopt those platforms. And again, that gives us our guiding principles to know how to take positions on legislation that comes up in the next calendar year.
Yeah, and those platforms are, while we're not going to go through every single change in those platforms, they are available on our website, micounties.org, and you can review them there. And I think they've also been sent out through our legislative update. There's been links there. So there's been a variety of ways to review those. So let's talk, Deena, first up, let's talk about our Finance and General Government Committee platform. What do you want to highlight from there?
Yeah, what I want to highlight from there is what we've done is added a section on economic development. For too long, the state of Michigan has really not looked at counties as a partner in economic development endeavors. They've done economic development packages focused on cities, focused on townships, focused on specific businesses, but they haven't necessarily focused on the county involvement in economic development. And so we've changed our platforms a bit to say, hey, counties need to be at the table. If taxes are going to be abated for economic development purposes, counties need to be involved. They need to recognize the tax on services that is going to happen if we have a large economic development program or package that comes into that particular county. How is the county going to deal with it? So we've added language to actually recognize the importance of counties in economic development.
Great. Sam, let's move on to one of your committees that you handle, Health and Human Services Committee. What are some of the highlights there you'd like to talk about?
We added a few bits here. We added some similar language that Deena mentioned around economic development. Ours focuses a little bit more on affordable housing and employment opportunities within the counties. And again, expanding what can counties do in combination with the state of Michigan for economic development purposes. And then we really honed in on our opposition to any attempt to privatize the public mental health system. That keeps coming up session after session, and we wanted to really emphasize, our opposition to that privatization attempt.
Yeah, that is something that's come up time and time again. Madeline, Transportation Committee, what are some of the highlights from there?
Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion this year in the legislature on possible funding opportunities for local transit projects. So we did include some language in the transportation platform, kind of supporting those increased funds and a more concentrated focus on local transit.
Okay. And Deena, Ag and Tourism.
Agriculture and tourism. Now, that's a committee that really decided to focus more on tourism this year. We do focus a lot on outdoor recreation in the Agriculture and Tourism Committee, but tourism specifically, we added some language to put counties again back on a level playing field with other counties in that there have been bills that have passed, legislation that has moved, appropriations made to give counties extra money toward tourism for attraction purposes. But that is limited to just particular counties across the state. So we added language sort of trying to level that playing field that each individual county across the state should have the same access to funding opportunities to increase tourism to their area, but also to focus on the public cost of tourism, which often gets overlooked during, any kind of discussions on either economic development or huge tourist attractions, because there is a public cost, whether it be law enforcement costs or wear and tear on infrastructure or increased need for services or response times. So we added language to deal with those issues.
Okay, great. And then Sam, our Judiciary and Public Safety Committee.
Yes, this year, we had the never-ending issue of trial court funding. So we expanded that language to account for future changes. What can we expect moving forward with those recommendations and how can we adapt to them? And then we also expanded our support for increased funding for prosecutors' offices from the state of Michigan. And really, we're facing public safety shortages across the board, and prosecutors' offices are suffering.
All right, great. And then finally, Environmental Committee.
Yes. So I think the kind of environmental hot topic the past couple of years has been the possibility of a statewide septic code. We've talked about it at length in the Environmental Committee. We've talked about it at our policy summits and in our conferences. So we really expanded the section on a statewide septic code and sewage solutions. We included several new bullet points to address some of the concerns that have come out of those conversations.
Yeah, so just to reemphasize again, these are all the changes are available on our website, micounties.org. All 6 platforms are available on there. The membership what was that, Deena?
Sorry, general government. So finance and general government used to be 2 separate committees, but then they were combined. So they're one committee, but we deal with 2 separate platforms. And I know Madeline handles the general government platforms on that. So anything on that, Madeline?
Sorry.
We did. I think since Prop 2 of 2022 was passed, that dealt with the expansion of early election days. The legislature's still kind of working out the kinks on that. So we did include some language to talk about recruiting and retaining election workers and kind of protecting our county clerks from possible legal violations as a result of those major changes.
Great. Sorry about that. So yeah, well, I know we've messed around with that committee, the Finance and General Government Committee, a few times, and I thought you had briefly covered it in your update on the finance side, Deena. Sorry. So again, micounties.org, all the platforms are available for review. General membership will be voting on these platforms at the conference next week, which will be Thursday morning. All we'll have copies at the conference if you're attending, of course, limited copies, not a ton. But we're encouraging folks to go ahead and get online and look at them beforehand, and feel free to ask any questions. We'd be happy to answer them. With that, anything else that we may want to add on or that I missed?
I don't think so. I just want to say that we really appreciate the amount of effort and work our committees put into developing these platforms. They're county commissioners who have an interest in those particular issue areas. They donate their time and they really help us hone in on where we should be on certain types of issues. So just kind of a nice shout out and thank you to those members that do come to town or participate via Zoom and help us develop this.
Yeah, great point. And if you are interested in being a member of any of those committees, you can fill out an application on the website and be happy to get you appointed. We also have non-voting members on those committees that we kind of look to as subject matter experts sometimes. So, for example, on our public safety committee, we have sheriffs. They can't vote on any of the topics that are discussed or voted on there, but they do provide some critical information, and we have county administrators on all those committees as well that help us, just make sure we know everything that we need to know. So again, if you want to be a part of any of those committees, feel free to go to the website, micounties.org, fill out an application, and we look forward to seeing many people at the conference next week. So thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Podcast 83.